Joining me now is the first female governor of New Jersey for 2 terms and the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under President George W. Bush. Governor Whitman, great to see you again. Of course, we also have history. I should say Governor Whitman was on my board of directors when I was helping to run both the Nixon Center and then later was involved in the New American Foundation. So great to see you again, Governor. Let me just ask you the question I asked some of my previous guests. In fact, Governor Raimondo, I asked, did the 19th Amendment, is that enough? Because I had not realized how many blocks of women continued to be unable to vote. And so I'm just sort of interested in this question of what else has to be done on the issue of gender equality from your perspective?
Well, clearly the 19th Amendment was not enough. We've seen that every day. And what has to happen is that first of all, women have to understand that it's important to elect more women and have more women in positions of decision making because we bring a different contextual approach to issues. We have different life experiences. We have different ways of prioritizing. And today's questions and problems are so complex that you need more diversity at the decision-making table. We need to get over that first hump because so many women don't engage because they think there's always someone else better qualified to do the job than they. And we have to get over that. We have to stop being humble, as it were. I was watching the debate last night. I was thinking, if the moderator had been a mother who'd been stuck at home with 3 or 4 kids, she could have handled that one a little better than poor Chris, who was trying desperately, but it was a difficult task. But the parties also need to recognize women are better than 50% of the electorate now. And the parties need to recognize that if they want to continue to be relevant into the future, they need to start not just recruiting women, but then supporting them. It's not enough to just say, we want you to run and finding an occasional seat where you think, well, maybe they're not going to win, but at least we'll show we've gotten a woman, or it's a tough one, and then walking away from them. They need to continue the support because women still don't have pay equity. It's not full pay equity now. Women still don't have the history of giving in large amounts because they don't have the disposable income. There are not enough women on the CEOs of boards or on boards who can help direct the company giving to help certain candidates. So all of those things become barriers to women. Plus, women tend to like a little more civility than we're seeing these days. So one of the things we have to say to women is, look, we can bring that. We as women can bring that to the fore. That's one of our responsibilities. And we are also, as women, tend to be the ones that work across the aisle. And as Liana would say, and as you look today, in fact, most of the bipartisan legislation, if its primary sponsor isn't a woman, it certainly has a bunch of women co-sponsors. They tend to be the ones that really work to bring people together. So that's why it's important for all of us that we have better diversity. And that means women particularly.
Well, Christy, I'll say on behalf of our op-ed page editor, if you want to do a quick op-ed about that mother of 4 with 2 jobs as a better moderator for debate, we'd really love to run that. I think it's a fascinating frame. But let me also ask you, we've known each other for a long time, and I think, both you and I, we've had discussions about building that pragmatic center, folks with empathy and understanding for working across both sides. And I'm just wondering where that has gone. You've been working very hard at saying we need to rebuild that, but I don't know if these divided bubbles that were in the nation recognize that we're all in the same boat anymore.
Well, I think you're right. It's hard to get people to recognize that. There are a few issues, though, that are beginning to transcend those bubbles. One of them is climate change. We recognize that what's happening with the climate doesn't recognize whether you're in a red state or a blue state. Mother Nature could care less about the political boundaries, and it's affecting all of us. And so we need to come together, which is why there, in fact, is a coalition growing in the Congress, Republicans and Democrats, who want to take this issue seriously and want to start to really talk about it. You also have the Problem Solvers Caucus, and now we have caucuses in both the House and the Senate. The Senate was harder to bring along because they don't like to make, long-term commitments or give up any of their particular authority. But now they are saying that, yeah, we'll join together with this, and if 2/3 of us accept a position on a particular issue, we'll go along with it. That's a big step, and that is beginning to be heard. And in fact, on the piece of legislation that was the last piece of legislation that was being looked at, the pandemic relief bill, was actually crafted by the Problem Solvers Caucus. It got shot down again because of partisanship in the leadership. This is an election year. It's crazy, this presidential election year, unlike, I think you'll agree, that we've ever seen. Last night's debate, to my mind, the big loser was democracy. And I'd go more to that than almost anything else. So it is going to be hard, but there are a few of those transcending issues about which everyone cares. And I think that's where we start to build our base of bringing people together and electing somebody who wants to do that as well.
Christy, although I know you do not support President Trump, I do know that you talk to lots of Republicans and lots of Republicans who are still Republicans. How is the information that has broken in the New York Times about President Trump's apparently not paying very much in tax resonating with that group?
Well, as you may know, I chair the National Republicans and Independents for Biden, and we have a host of Republicans who are still Republicans, but don't want to vote for, they're not a Trump Republican. I mean, there is no Republican Party right now. It is the party of Trump. When you don't even try to adopt a platform, what you're saying is we have no center set of principles. Whatever Trump says it is today, that's what it'll be, and it may be different tomorrow, but that's okay because that's where how we identify ourselves. So this group is a group of people. We have former governors, Congress people, senators, you name it, elected officials, people who have been appointed office, up into party officials. And these are people who are saying, we've got to look at the future. And right now, we need to send the message that this election is about the president versus the Constitution, really. I mean, we're all enthusiastic. I'm an enthusiastic supporter of Joe Biden. I think he brings the right qualities. He is the person who will reach across the aisle. He has shown that time and again. He's a decent, honest, steady guy. And he is a devout patriot. He would certainly never have stood by and let Russia put a bounty on the heads of our troops or run their vehicles into our troops' vehicles as they did in Syria and not say a word, which this president hasn't. So I think that's where you start to see a nucleus of people coming together who are saying we've got to change things. Now, yes, I guess, let me back up, I guess, and say, yes, I think the issue about the tax returns made some impact. But, this is something that we've suspected for a long time. There have been these cases coming for a long time. There's more here than people have ever heard before. I don't think it's going to sway anybody who is a solid Trump supporter or anyone who is a solid Biden supporter. But those people who are in the middle, those who are the independents who don't want to vote for Trump but really are uncomfortable pulling a Democrat lever, this is where, to them, it's making a difference. It's emblematic of the whole persona of the president and the fact that he has such huge debts coming, where he is going to be liable for enormous amounts of money. I mean, $300 to $400 million that he's going to have to be responsible for, and the $72+ million tax rebate he got that he's been investigated. Was that even legal at the time? That really calls into question how independent he can be in a next term, should he get it. And will he be under the influence of whoever has provided the money for him to get himself into those kinds of debt situations?
Well, former New Jersey Governor Todd Whitman, former EPA administrator, now president of the Whitman Strategy Group. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for your work in trying to rebuild that pragmatic center. I think it's so important. Thank you, Christy. Good to see you.
Thank you.